Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I'm pretty disappointed, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been going through a bunch of different tackle that I've had in the tackle room here or in one of my other storage rooms. Just some stuff to see what I had, kind of going through inventory, if there was stuff I wanted to get rid of, that type of stuff. And there was a box that I haven't opened for quite some time, a couple of years, and it's full of swim baits. And a lot of these are baits that I bought specifically for back when we used to have ledge fishing tournaments. Like I remember going to Kentucky Lake and Pickwick Lake, probably back, I'm gonna say 2017-ish, somewhere in that range. And I remember talking to Cody Meyer, and he was telling me about these Osprey swim baits. They had the weight molded inside of them. You could throw them and just slow roll them along the ledges, and they were generating a lot of really good bites for him. And it wasn't just him. It was kind of on the down low with some of the pros, but it was also getting out that this was something that a lot of anglers were doing. So, of course, having an addiction problem to tackle, I ended up buying a whole pile of these different baits. And I remember going to that tournament on Pickwick Lake. I had one, it was probably a 3 year span actually, where I had one of these baits, an osprey or various other swim baits tied up, and you'd fish them. I might catch a handful of fish, but they never were huge players. So when I got back, or at some point, I took a bunch of them out of the boat, put them in storage. A bunch of the extra ones I bought, put them in storage, and I haven't looked at them in a long time. Well, today I opened up the box, and almost all of them look like this. So this is a persuader. This was another one that I bought. And when I say bought, there's probably 30 or 40 of these. Most of them aren't even made anymore, but this is what pretty much everyone looks like right now.
Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. However, they just introduced the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most, as you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy, rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water.
The head, which has the lead poured inside of the body, it reacted with the plastic, and it's led to it kind of being the sticky, gooey, just you can see the residue coming off of my hand. Just a complete bummer because like these are really good swim baits. They're ones that, most of the ones I have, you can't even get anymore. Yes, they're probably still usable, but I just don't want to cast this. I don't want to swim it through the water and have big old whitehead swimming through. And maybe it's something I would want. Maybe it will work. Um, I would love to know from you guys, like, do you throw them out when they look like that? Because right now I've got probably 20 different Osprey ones. I got a bunch of these Persuader ones that just, when I open up the box, it was like they were all looking right back at me with that white head. And I'm curious, are there things that we can do with this? My understanding is this is just the plastic reacting to the lead that's poured inside of it. And I know most of the newer baits these days, if you're, pouring lead, you can put a coating on top of them if you're going to pour them inside of swim baits like this to prevent that reaction from happening. So you don't see it nearly as much, which is part of the bummer because like I said, a lot of these baits you can't even get anymore. You can't buy them. The companies aren't even around. They were all, for the most part, hand poured stuff. I mean, I've actually caught some really big fish on these persuader ones. Never got a ton of bites, but when I got bit, they were the right ones. And I just, like, it was one of those things where I actually bought one on a whim, I think it was at Kentucky Lake, caught one that was like 5.5 or 6 in practice, caught like a 4-pounder in the tournament on it. I think those were the only 2 bites I had. I got home and I ordered like another 6 or 7 of them. And those are sitting in that box right now. And every one looks like this. Really disappointing. Yeah, so I guess my question to you is, first, anything we can do with that? I would love to know. I don't think there's any way to bring this back. The second question would be, do you still use them when they're like this? And I would love to know if you find that they still produce as good as they did when they didn't have the big white head on it, or do you find that they don't work? You know, this is one of those things where I don't really want to throw it out, but I also don't necessarily want to keep it if it's just going to keep getting worse and it's not going to be productive. Just a total bummer. I'm sure a lot of you have had this happen too, but you know, I open that box, it's like several $100s worth, I feel like, has been just thrown down the drain. And I don't believe there's anything I can do with it. So just a bummer, guys. There's nothing you can do with these. That's the problem. Like most baits have certain ways you can store them, or if you store them wrong, you know, there might be damage you can do to the bait. What I mean by that is, if you go buy a nice say a glide bait, and it's got a nice tail on it, you know, that's a hair tail. If you let that box sit and that tail is bent, or tail sits crooked up, when you open it, that tail is then bent and you got to go through a pain in the butt trying to repair it or replace it. And it's all because you stored it wrong. In this case, I don't feel like there's anything else I could have done. I mean, they were stored not upright. They were stored on their side. They were stored in just a room that has very little temperature fluctuation. It's just a matter of that reaction taking place and happening. Yeah, so total bummer, guys. It's just one of those things that happens. I'd love to know from you guys if you've experienced it. Is there ways to overcome it? Does it still work? And if you know anybody making bigger, wider, deeper baits like this, I'd love to know too, because this thing's a killer. All right, guys, that's all I had for you. It's really more, I guess, of a help me video versus a help you video. Sometimes we have those. I appreciate all you watching. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll have another video scheduled tomorrow. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with these, so I'll tune in tomorrow to you.